Hello, hello, Saggy Joe. I hope your day's been going well. My days have been going pretty good. We're just gonna do a quick Avatar: The Last Airbender character ranker tier list. I suppose would be the name. And I'm not sure if there's gonna be an S plus at least at the moment, but we're gonna find out. Okay, first things first. Aang. Okay, Aang is a very good character. Of course, he's the main lead, and his progression, his growth in the story is amazing. Him trying to wrestle the fact that he's an avatar at 12 years old. Oh Jesus, this kid was tasked with saving the world at 12. I honestly don't blame him for running away, because if grown ass adults run away from their problems all the time via alcohol or drugs or whatever. So it's like, do you really expect a kid to have the maturity to be able to handle that? Having said that, I understand his pacifist approach to a lot of like the world, the war, and everything like that. I am a fan of vengeance, so that's where I differ with Aang. But having said that, objectively speaking, he is very well written, so he's definitely an S. Okay, so we're gonna necessitate an S plus already. So let's add a row above. Let's do that. Okay, so we're gonna get an S plus going, and let's change that color up. Let's see. I always like using purple when it's like the S plus stuff because it's like a mix of the colors. I could do black, but the screen's black, so it's not like it's kind of pointless. Cause the reason why I say that is because I'm gonna put Appa at S plus. Um, I Okay, so Azula is interesting because when you first meet her, she's kind of just like your typical "oh, I'm just evil for the sake of being evil" kind of lady, and she doesn't really have that much of a redemption story up until like the very last, like Ember Island and a couple of other episodes where it showcases that even though she knows she's kind of like a monster, she always wanted her mom's approval, and that's sort of like a source of jealousy for her with Zuko, and it does give like depth because it's fine to have a character who's just evil for the sake of being evil, but it doesn't put a lot of depth into it. It doesn't allow for a better story. So I'll put Azula as a character in terms of writing, progression, backstory. I think the backstory could have been a little bit better, but sometimes, hey, you're just evil. Okay, so Bato, he's over a minor character, so there's not much of a development form with him. He does appear also when they try to invade the Fire Nation, which results in like the total failure, and then they get captured again. Bato is gonna be like a good B. It's a good introduction to the past that Sokka and Katara have, because a lot of it's focused on Aang, and it's allowing a lot more fleshed out scenes. A lot of the filler episodes in Avatar. It's a good filler episode because it adds to the story. At least it does some world building and provides us an insight into how Katara and Sokka feel. And that one episode I think was very very strong because it also showed like traditions and everything like that. Uh, and then we have our S plus, of course, cabbages, my cab. So he's great. Really good character. Good for comedic relief. He shows up. I think they time it very well, where he's not always gonna be there, but he shows up just enough that gives you a good laugh, especially when things are getting like he does show up when there's a fight scene, so it releases the tension a little bit with the fight, and then you're able to laugh and enjoy the fight scene a little bit more. So he does a really good job of that. This guy, uh, just a big bad assassin, grunts, combustion man. For a few episodes, is the reason why Zuko and the gang kind of like crossroads, and takes a long time for them to forgive him because they got this hulking man who can just, I don't know what kind of bending his bending is really. I think, is he bending heat in like a linear pattern kind of thing? He's bending the heat particles, bending the heat so that the particles around them explode. I would imagine that that's how it works. Like, that's the physics of his ability. He makes a good minor villain. almost to the level of when Azula was chasing the gang. So I would say like what his role in what he was doing, capturing Toph. So he was just not just this big hulking guy. This guy also was able to use his brain. Of course, assassin, right? But sometimes when you see these characters, they're just built. They're just like meatheads. But this guy was pretty smart. He was able to capture Toph. Uh, this guy is the idiot that stole Appa. So you would think that I put this guy as a D character because I would hate him, but actually he's like a C character. Like his role for stealing Appa was money, which makes sense, and then they did allude to that earlier, so it kind of makes sense. Like you had the feeling that they were gonna show up at some point, um, but you kind of get mad at the sheer stupidity. It's like it's a fucking air bison. You know what I mean? Like who else has an air bison but the Avatar? They were basically extinct. I don't really know how it works out in when Tenzin's time, but right now I know it's rare, but like you probably don't want to mess with the Avatar. This guy was just a fucking moron, man. Like he was just stupid, but important. It was an important plot point for Appa to get stolen, and I think it was very interesting how they stole Appa in like a context of sand, where Toph was really struggling with seeing. She was really struggling with handling sand bending. I found that really interesting because it's still Earth, but then because it's such a different kind of Earth that she's used to, she struggled. But Toph also grew from that. She also grew from that. Able to do a sand bend literally like a scale of Bossing Say, one of the last episodes before the final scene. Monk Yatsu, I think, he's a really good role model. He's an A for sure. Very powerful. Unfortunately, he fell. Honestly, I would say he's an S. He's an S character because every flashback you have, you feel the connection Aang has with Monk Yatsu and how good a father figure Monk Yatsu is. He's being very understanding, but also being aware that there are two sides of the war. Of course, you have to train Aang, but Aang's still a child. And I think that he made a really good role model for Aang, and a really good friend, a really good father figure, and he was very powerful in his own right. But then again, because Aang is the last Airbender, it's really hard to gauge how powerful Airbenders can be because Aang's very pacifist about it. Monk Yatsu, I think, when he eliminated a bunch of the Fire Nation soldiers, that's the potential of airbending. So now you have Sokka's dad. He's good character, good role model, good father figure for both Sokka and Katara. But again, not a lot of depth into his character, fortunately. He does help out a little bit, but it's like their typical warrior stuff. But he was quite good in the role that he was given. So don't get me wrong, still a really good character. This woman, honestly, she's actually one of my favorite characters because she spent her whole life getting revenge on the people that took everything away from her, and I kind of get her in that aspect. And then how she was able to think outside the box of like the regular context for bending, and how that made you as an audience also think outside the box when it comes to, because prior to that, of course, you had Toph learning how to metal bend, but then you're just like, okay, I mean, there must be other fluids, like other contexts in where you can use other forms of, you can use bending, your bending for other forms, because they already showed like water had ice, and then fire, there's some people who can do electricity, Azula being a great example. And then now you have like the metal bending, and then you're just like, okay, so water bending with ice, it's kind of like a given. So how do you kind of expand on the context? I think everyone really did think about fluid bending, but then this kind of like solidified it. She made a very great antagonist in the one episode, and I think that they allude to this in the Legend of Korra, and how bloodbending was able to block PowerPoints so that you couldn't bend anymore. It's super interesting. The lore was able to be greatly expanded. Haku's Ait. Um, the one good episode where he needed inspiration with his dad, he gets captured. Uh, decent chemistry with Katara. This guy's trying to hide the fact he's an Earthbender, because the Fire Nation took away everything from them, and you know, him trying to get his father out. Of course, it's a good side plot. It's a good plot for something you can refer to, and you can say how like the gang has grown from like this kind of method to this, like you went from sneaking into prison in an Earth Kingdom area to literally the inescapable one, the Boiling Rock. Okay, Iroh, of course S tier. Iroh is very controversial if you really think about it, because Iroh, for the longest time, was a Fire Nation tyrant as well. He's not immune to that. He's not innocent of that fact. Killed a lot of people as a general, so you have to keep that in mind as well. Iroh is not always innocent, but the Iroh that we see, the Iroh that's trying for redemption, this is the Iroh that you wanna like. This is the Iroh that you wanna be friends with. This is the Iroh that you hope that you can stay in contact with and everything like that. Um, Absolutely fantastic written character. Just goes to show how like one bad day, one event can really either open your eyes or turn or close it off, and open your heart or turn all the way off. So Zhang Zhang was interesting. He was an interesting character. I liked his philosophy, a little too philosophical for my tastes, but in the end was a very powerful bender, good friend of Iroh's. He played defensive when he was in if you watch the battle, he was very defensive with his firebending, not so much offense. In the same way, like he would build firewalls, he would be more reactive, while the firebenders were proactive usually. So he played a very defensive form of firebending, which I found very interesting. An interesting character. I wish there was more to the story, uh, but it is what it is. Jet, I get Jet. He's a good, very well written character as well, because in one way you have Zhang Zhang and Iroh who are seeking redemption, and then Jet who and finds success, but then Jet tries to find redemption and essentially doesn't. He's a good character. He's a compelling character. That vengeance that he has is the extreme end of vengeance, right? Like that non-forgiving, non-flexible thought, where he really undermined himself because he was the one who just wouldn't stop. Um, yeah, he's a great character though. Great character. She's a good character for what she did. It's nice to be give give some context to Zuko. Show that Zuko can be more than just I must find the Avatar, Uncle. They just like, and then constantly failing. This is the one success that he had in his life, and it did give him a boost of self confidence. And then he kind of was running away from. No, this is not when he was running away from mine. Not yet, anyway. So it's good to have that self confidence. Judy is a good character because she's so fucking annoying, but I would say that she's a B. Plays her role well. It was real. Honestly, everyone's well written, right? So it's kind of hard to say, oh, they're just a B. But in terms of, because she's very memorable, right? Like Sparky Boom Man, Zhang, you wouldn't know the name of, I think, just because I like the character. But Judy is definitely, she's probably A tier in terms of character because you definitely will remember her. What you remember her for is a different story, but you remember her. That's a sign of a well written character. I already forgot her name. I just honestly, if the whole thing with Iroh was just kind of funny, but she does make a comeback. Your typical badass, female anti-hero, I suppose. Just a character that has a very gray code of ethics, and just does whatever the money pays for her. So very good character, but a little one-dimensional, but excels in the dimension that she's in. June is her name, I think. Katara, of course, S character. I like her growth. You can really see it reflected with the hairstyles that she has, where she has like the braids, the loopy, and then by the fourth season, is it fourth? By the third book, she does try a few different styles. It's not just consistently one style. And I think it does show like the growth of Katara as well, and the change that she's going through, and you can see really in the power that she possesses. Because in the very beginning, she actually wasn't that very good of a waterbender, but towards the end, she's a lot better than Aang at what she does. Bumi is an automatic S plus. I don't think that there's needs to be any conversion, any conversation with that. Just accept it and move on. Okay, the king, the king is your typical spoiled kid, but he's not like a bad spoiled kid. He's just very naive and very ignorant. Doesn't really know what's happening. Let what's his face, this guy run everything instead, and didn't really know what was going on. So I don't know what else to tell you. Just a figurehead, just a puppet. Um, Avatar Kyoshi is definitely an S. I definitely preferred her personality over Aang's. It would be remiss for me to say that she deserves like a higher spot though, because I like her personality and her character, and the context of Kyoshi Island and everything like that. But she doesn't really pop up that often. This guy was a pretty good antagonist for a little bit. I will say that, yeah, he went up until he gets outsmarted by Azula. He was a pretty good antagonist, pretty well written. I just like he annoyed the shit out of me, which means that he was a well written character. See, but like out of spite, just because I really disliked him, he's a lower A. But realistically speaking, he's probably he's a really good, well written like antagonist. He's definitely up there, as a character that you hate. You just remember this guy, just like this guy was fucking annoying, man. This is a typical, quiet, solemn, quiet guy, but speaks few words. Very supportive, very supportive, good loyal friend, good loyal soldier. There's not much more you can say. Okay, it's gonna be controversial, but is realistically speaking would have been a very annoying girlfriend. Let's be real. She would have been a very annoying girlfriend because all she does is complain, and you're just like, oh fuck, man, like can't you just smile for once? Like I'm trying so hard here, which does get highlighted in Ember Island, where like Mai's personality is just like so blah. And then like and then when you look back at like the kids and when they were kids, and then she had a little bit more to her, but like the uncaring attitude and everything like that. Even like towards the end, I was like, Zuko, as cute as this is, I almost prefer Zuko having her over Mai. So I'm gonna put Mai at a B character. Kind of weird, your gloomy, like depressed kind of character. Very, she has some growth towards like the boiling rock and everything like that. But still, yeah, usual. She has, ninja assassin, and then kind of a bland personality. This is the dad. I forgot his name. Very innovative. I like his character. I like the twist where he's actually supporting the Fire Nation. But it's again, it's a gray area. Like he's trying to protect his people. He took over the air temples because there's no one there. But then you see how Aang feels about everything. How they took away the culture and erasing the culture and everything like that. But no, I found that really interesting in general. Just that idea where if you are a people and you just need some place and you kind of erase the history and the culture there, how bad is it when you're just doing what you need to do for your people? It's a very tough conversation because that's why we have ruins, right? Like people built ruins, built over ruins. People would pillage ruins and shit. Like the ruins once stood, right? And then now they're just a forgotten area, and who knows that that's how the ruins actually look like how the city actually look like. You know what I mean? Maybe that's all that's left. And then it could be. It's usually maybe like a rich area. You don't know how the poor areas of those places would look like, so you don't know. Momo, of course, S plus. I found I found Momo's relationship with Appa really cute, especially in the days the just like the slice of life style that they did for Bossing Say, where everyone was having their own slice of life kind of thing, and then Momo just very dedicated to Appa, even though it felt like they would argue with each other. Sozin, Sozin was a good. He was a well written villain. No, he wasn't. He wasn't that. He wasn't. He was just a dick. He was just like at least Azula had more depth. Sozin, that's not Sozin. Again, Ozai. Ozai had no personality. He was just evil for the sake of being evil. There was not much that went to it. He was just, yeah, I'm just very strong. That's literally his personality. So Master Paco, I like his growth as a character. I like that he has to open up and change the cultural norms, because in a way he does make a compelling argument. You have disrespected my culture, but then at the same time, just because that's part of your culture doesn't mean it's right. So I like that message from that episode where you're just like, yeah, it's your culture. It doesn't mean that I have to accept it or that you guys can't change because it's wrong. I like that aspect. This guy, what's his name? Piandao? Piandao? He was a good character as well, especially for the growth of Sokka. But he was so much like he just fit the trope so well, just like this wise old man, and it's the way of the sword. It's not any one nation, and you have to be creative and think outside the box when it comes to the sword. But overall, that was a very pleasant episode, and it's one of the few episodes where like every time it plays, I find me not skipping it. Like I'll skip the Paco stuff because it's kind of annoying to hear the clear sexism, but like at least with him, I'm just like, yeah, I fuck with it. This guy is kind of just like a minor B character, so I'm just gonna put him here. He's nice. Roku was good. Roku was a good character. I liked Roku a lot of depth. I think I would put him lower, like just above Kyoshi. I love Roku's character, just the history behind it, how he relates to Zuko, and how Zuko has to choose which bloodline he wants to represent. I found out all that really interesting. It makes a compelling story, and it adds world building. What was the world like? Why did Roku fail to stop Sozin in the first place? Like why didn't he do anything? And you see how he failed. Try to fight a fucking volcano. And a lot of people roast him for like trying to fight a volcano, but it's just like, yeah, the people survive, but it's kind of hard to build from scratch. I don't think people really understand how this feels when you've lost everything. Everything that you worked so hard towards, because it's like, if that day there probably wasn't even any insurance, and even now, even if you have insurance, there's that sentimental value that money can't buy. So even if you get an insurance payout, it's like you'd still miss that thing, you know what I mean? But anyways, that's besides the point. I forget her name, Smellerby or something. They worked hand in hand. I like that they had a good relationship, and he was very supportive of her, saying her, it doesn't matter how you look, just be confident in who you are, and everything will work out well. Sokka is my favorite character. I think he has the most growth out of all the characters. Going from like a sexist, kind of like a very close-minded warrior. Well, I wouldn't even call him a warrior. He wasn't even that good. But then he grows into this very open-minded, like general. He's very strategic. He can, really think things through, and he's the glue that holds the party together and makes them enjoy each other. Sozin, again, he's just gonna go with. He has more depth, but out of spite, he's just gonna go there. Suki's cool. She has a couple of really fun lines, and then there's the fun thing where she says Toph. Yeah, nah, yeah. I think I'll put her there. This is the sun. It's cool to see someone who's in a wheelchair, where, like, it's obviously a very big part of the character, but it's also like it's not in your face. You know what I mean? And I like how they adapt to his kind of style, and how he really understands how the airbenders were. Like, they have the airbender spirit, even though they don't have the airbender skills. So I think that he was very well written, where like, yeah, you point out that he had the disability here and there, but it's also like it wasn't something that he made himself defined with, and that he still was able to work a way around that disability. I like that. The boulder. Okay, the boulder's just gonna be here just because I like the character of the boulder, okay? That's it. The boulder does not understand Why little girls are crying? The boulder. Okay, guy, it's really funny because like he's a parody of The Rock, but The Rock is so much like the boulder. It's not even funny. This guy doesn't. The Rock can't even stop talking about stuff. He had the whole. He had all that shenanigans with. Is it Chick-fil-A? In and out Burger. Oh, that was gross. Okay, this kid. He's gonna go over here. He's very minor character. Was able to escape with Aang the gang, but I think that's about all I can remember. Toph is my favorite character of all time. She is the goat. She's goated, and there's nothing you can tell me otherwise. I don't care who you like. The only argument is the cabbage ban. That's the only other argument where I can see that you are right. But other than that, can't no. Okay, Ty Lee actually is a really good character. Very aloof, but then you always underestimate her because of that. And then she's like a circus, quote unquote, circus freak. Not gonna lie, when I was growing up, I had a huge crush on Ty Lee. I was kind of annoyed that she fell for Sokka just a little bit. She's also interestingly enough, not that well written. I would say not a lot of depth, but that's also because they don't really open up on her side. But the fact that she becomes a Kyoshi warrior towards the end, you're just like, oh, that's fun. That's really fun. She probably changed Kyoshi warriors for the better anyway. Um, this is Zuko's mom, just by default of being a milf. She's over there. Wang Shitong, I think, in a certain way, I like his character because I actually are a lot of people I don't find kind of get mad at this guy because they feel it's justified with the way he feels about everything. How people have used his library for evil, how they've used um, the resources there, and even burnt down the resources. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty devastating what Admiral Jiao did. And honestly, I hate Admiral Jiao more than I do Ozai and Sozin. Because Ozai and Sozin, yeah, they're evil, whatever. Yeah, you say, yeah, go kill a bunch of people, go sacrifice our soldiers, whatever. But Admiral Jiao, what this guy did, he's a fucking menace, man. Okay, this guy, this loser, he's gonna go in D. Nothing, he's just a loser. Princess Yue, the literal moon. I'm gonna be honest with you. This might be controversial, but she wasn't that interesting of a character. It was more so her relationship with Sokka and the loser fiance. But she herself was not that interesting. Controversial. Shoot me, okay? This is the instructor. He's also a loser. Admiral Zhao. Okay, look, hear me out. Admiral Zhao is a well-written character. You hate this guy. You remember, and when he gets swallowed up by the water spirit, you like the Schadenfreude that you get from that. You thoroughly enjoy that. Like that makes you moist. Like that the amount of moisture that release, no matter what gender or sex you are, is just so riveting. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like you hit the big O. Like that's the only time in a cartoon series where the big O you can achieve the big O. You know what I mean? Because you fucking hate this guy. So, and then of course Zuko is gonna be S plus. I like his growth better than I do Aang. And I think that has a lot to do with me being able to relate with Zuko a little bit. Even now, don't exactly have a father that likes my presence. But anyways, I think this is what I would go for the Avatar tier list. I don't really know what my parameters were. I think I preferred like the growth, how well written they are, except for Ursa. I mean, she's a milf, but everyone else here, I think this is a fair assessment. I think this is a fair tier list. If you disagree, let me know. If you agree, also let me know. Subscribe if you like this. I don't know how often I'll be putting these out, but I'll be putting them out. Anyways, thank you very much. Later days.